Hello and welcome to Trailer Teardowns. I'm one of your hosts, Evan Bass-Seisel, with co-host Angel Acevedo and special guest Jénel Stevens Thompson. And today we are discussing the trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth. Welcome, Jénel.
Thank you. Thank you.
So a little background on Jénel. Jénel was the fight choreographer and Viola Davis's stunt double in The Woman King. You can find her work in Black Panther, Avengers Endgame, the upcoming Shadow Force coming out May 9th, and 2025's Superman, which we've discussed on this podcast. She was named by Hollywood Reporter as Stunt Person of the Year in 2022. She is a black belt in Jeet Kune Do, purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yellow glove in Savate. I think that maybe, hey,
yeah.
Savat, level 9 in, and this is where I feel like you're starting to just make things up. Level 9 in Balintawak, and a crew in Muay Thai, which I feel like this just means none of us should ever pick a fight with you. And as a I don't know, amusing sort of backstory, Jénel, you and I first met at an axe throwing gathering that you put together in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I was a little hard on myself because I wasn't getting all bullseyes. Pretty sure you were getting all bullseyes, not competition. But at the end, I was like, I have this pain and I think it might be a hernia. You gave me a ride in your sweet car to the subway to drop me off. And you're like, you should like get that looked at. Because if it's a hernia, I was like, okay. And long story short, I had hernia surgery a month later because I was axe throwing. So that's why I didn't get the bullseyes. That was the only reason I didn't get the bullseyes.
I'll give you that.
But yeah, I hope that summarized the epic kind of stunt and acting work you're doing, which I think is like always awesome to like learn the next thing that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the intro. Definitely brings everything in a nutshell.
So one of the themes of our podcast is this idea of, the role of trailers in promoting movies, and especially this idea of, we've got going to theaters versus now everybody can stream things at home, and you had the pandemic, so it's sort of shifted things. So the question we like to ask is, what gets you excited to see a movie in the theaters, like versus another way?
Well, I just feel like going to the movies is an event, right? It should be an event. It's like a great date night. It's a way to get out of the house and escape for a little bit. So I really always enjoyed going to the movies, even if the movie was streaming. We always try to replicate, right, movies in our homes. Also, people have home movie theaters, and I have a big projector screen in my house too. But there's nothing like getting out of the house, getting dressed up, going to maybe dinner beforehand, sitting down in the movies in a movie theater. And one of the biggest things I think is getting the reaction from the crowd, being immersed with other people experiencing the movie as well. When I was doing the Avengers or the Black Panther premiere, seeing everybody's reaction to it. And I went to the movie theaters a few times to do that in different areas. The premiere had its own audience because we were all working on the movie, right? So everybody was giving the polite clap, whatever. And then you go to like the movie theater in I don't know, on 125th Street in Harlem, and you got
Been
a
to that
whole
one. I've
another
been to that one.
experience,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Did you get I just guessing, did you get some people standing up at like Wakanda Forever, doing the things like at the end of the movie?
Afterward for sure. And obviously, going with my parents to some of the other ones, other theaters, they would, my daughter's in the movie, blah, blah, blah. No way. And half the people believe you. It's like, why would she be in the theater with us? And, getting the pictures with them by the poster outside. So, it's an experience when you go, and it's not just about the movie. So I really enjoy that part of it as well. People jump in at the right moments in a movie. It's like, oh, I kind of anticipated that to happen, but it's really cool to be surrounded by people and having the same experience.
Yeah. And we've talked about that, I think, like, especially action movies or comedies where that shared experience creates that level. And even, I mean, I was talking with Angel about this, I think, on our last episode, but like when you go to a movie and you think it's going to be good and and it's just such a bad
Oh
movie,
yeah,
but you have that
yeah.
experience where you all saw it together too.
Mhm.
We were talking about
Absolutely.
Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. I don't know your thoughts on it, but like we saw that opening night at the Ziegfeld in New York, and I'm pretty sure one of our friends dressed up as Indiana Jones, and then it was like, oh
That was you. That was you, Evan.
no,
That
no,
was you. That was you.
Patrick dressed up.
See, that's the other thing too. I saw a lot of the costumes of the Black Panther premiere. When people do cosplay, you see that at the movie theaters. A lot of people can take pictures with them and all that. And like you said, you get the bad ones too. Like one of my first movies I was in when I was acting in, went to the movie when it came out. It wasn't a huge thing, and I wasn't, uh, one of the big stars in it, but I definitely had a few co-starring scenes in there. And after the movie was over, people were filing out, and I heard one woman say to the person she was with, and she's like, "Next time, I pick the movie." I was like, "Okay."
But those are the things that you remember. Like
Oh yeah.
one of the things we talked about is like when you're watching and streaming at home, you can remember the movie, but you don't remember the movie experience. But when you
Hmm.
go to the theaters, like even though that movie didn't do well, you'll remember that, and it's a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest part of it, I think.
Yeah, it's specifically since we're gonna be talking about Jurassic World. I remember seeing that in theaters in '93, and
Jurassic
like I
Park.
was, yeah.
Me
Oh, sorry.
too.
Yeah,
Me
obviously
too.
Jurassic Park.
I went
Yeah,
as
like
with my class. It was a school trip.
yeah. It wasn't a school trip for me. I went with the family, and I really remember it. The theater was packed. I forget how old I was when it came out, like 11 or 12. And I remember just jumping out of my seat, like cheering, like when the raptors are like bursting through the walls in that like engineering room. And this lady next
Yeah.
to me is just like, calm down.
But that was also one of the first like big CGI moments when they created the dinosaurs too, which
Yeah.
I think was like a almost a pivotal point in sort of those blockbuster movie making where it didn't
Hmm.
have that level of like CGI creation that looked good mixed with the
Yeah.
practical. Like I always remember in the first movie there's that triceratops around with like the poop scene, like one of the initial things, but that one was clearly practical, but it worked with the
Right.
other, like it blended in well.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was definitely a turning point for visual effects.
Oh yeah, because you get something like that and nobody's ever really ever seen before. You had Alien and stuff like that, but you know, a lot of those things are also in the dark. But this one is everything's in the light. You see every detail. So now
Mm-hmm.
that makes it a little different. You have to be on point when you're showing that on screen, and there wasn't much around that. He's like, okay, dinosaurs is something that we all, depending on everybody's belief, dinosaurs did exist, and now, so, but then nobody has seen any. We can only speculate, and you only see, the bones and all that. So, seeing it on camera now makes you think, wow, it just opens up your imagination and then your visual stimulation with it. Um, it's just something different that we hadn't had before, and everybody got on board with it.
And I also think of it, I just thought of it now, but like it was also an interesting sort of pivot point in education at some level because a
Mm.
lot of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are not actually, it turns out to be like accurate. Like velociraptors are not that big. They're like much smaller. And
Right.
there's just different things that as science has grown, like a lot of them may have had feathers and were closer to like bird looking.
Hmm.
But because Jurassic Park was so epic and you have this action movie and everybody's involved and the CGI, a lot of people will, if you have to describe a dinosaur, will describe it like they saw it in Jurassic Park.
Yep, absolutely. But it's also cool because I wonder what the Google Analytics were for searches on dinosaurs when the movies came out,
Mm. Which
and
is like
then
crazy, like people looking up dinosaurs, like how
yeah,
many,
yeah, and kids wanting to go to museums now. And they're
yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what I saw in Jurassic Park, and then seeing it in front of their face outside of the screen. So,
I went to the New York Museum of Natural History a couple weeks ago, and my daughter loves the book Katie and the Dinosaurs, and it's a girl who goes into this back room of a natural history museum, and there's these dinosaurs, but they like talk about the different ones, and so we're like, oh, this is the one that Katie rides on the back of, and then like
ah,
this is the one that
that's
similar to
awesome.
I think Jurassic Park. It's like, oh, this is the one that was here.
Actually also like when people do research the true history of things. Like when I watch
Mm.
a movie and documentaries or, whatever it is, if it has some touch on history, I'd like to go back and see what it actually was, like
Yeah, yeah.
historical movies and stuff like that, and fill in the blanks for me as well. It's like, because obviously, a lot of people take dramatic license to make the
Tell a
movie more
story. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting, but you really need to fact check a lot of
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
And I think I hope it gets people excited to learn their history.
Hmm. Don't worry, ChatGPT
Mhm.
will take everything in Jurassic Park and assume that it's actual historical facts. So,
No.
but we should dive into our movie. Angel, you wanna sort of give the quick background?
Sure thing. So Jurassic World Rebirth. It's directed by Gareth Edwards. He did Godzilla, The Creator, and Rogue One. It's written by David Koepp, who wrote the original Jurassic Park. It stars Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey, and Rupert Friend. And this is coming out July 2nd, 2025.
Oh yeah. So this is the what number Jurassic
This
Park
is
is
the
this actually?
seventh one. So
Okay,
Wow.
seventh
three.
one, yeah. And this is sort of like a reset a little bit. Like we had the originals, then we had sort of the Chris Pratt era, and
Hmm.
then now it's sort of a reset. We're gonna just dive right into sort of the discussion on the trailer. And one thing that we thought might be really cool, given that we have Jénel as our guest for this one, is to sort of do a deep dive looking at the stunts in the trailer and discussing like what went into them, like how much is actually like a stunt versus just green screen and things like that. And so yeah, we're gonna sort of do that. You game for that, Janelle?
Yeah, perfect. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Because and I think because Jurassic Park is known for big moments, and I think interestingly, like the first Jurassic Park was more these scare moments that Angel was talking about with like
Hmm.
the dinosaurs, but like I think the most actiony was like in the kitchen, and they're just kind of like running
Yeah.
away, and then there's I think the car got into the tree by the dinosaur, but it was
Hmm.
it was much less, I would say, like stunt action based. And then when you get the Chris Pratt stuff, it got a lot more like guns and subduing or training velociraptors.
Right.
So yes, the first one comes at 1:05 into the trailer, and this one is like the standard. I don't want to say standard, but it's like they're belaying
Hmm.
over the edge of this like giant cliff going down. And I'm gonna tell you in my mind what I guess, and then you can tell me how wrong I am
Okay.
for this
Fair
first one.
enough.
How's that? So in my mind, I'm like, maybe this is in like a gym, and it's all green screen, and they're just going down this like wall in a gym from a vertical angle camera, and then everything else is like either CGI'd in or was filmed somewhere else.
I think you're pretty spot on with that. Now, again, I wasn't in the movie.
No, no, no,
However,
no. Yes.
I believe that you're pretty spot on about that. I mean, the eye that I have or I'm developing, I think it's going to be a constant development with what you see on camera, which kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit. But I still am a huge fan and get immersed in these movies. But I can kind of tell that there's CGI. I mean, well, it's on green screen when Scarlett Johansson's blowing down, and you'd never want to put your actors in a very dangerous situation. So they're definitely somewhere else, or on studio, or maybe on location where it's a low, it's not so much of a drop that she has to do. And granted, now not putting them in dangerous situations doesn't mean that they don't train for these things, right? You're definitely she's definitely had some training and knowledge because you want it to look real as well.
Yep.
But it could definitely be in some kind of rock climbing studio or in studios where they built a rock climbing wall. But yeah, I would say that you're definitely on point with that one.
And by the way, Tom Cruise might have an issue with you saying you shouldn't put actors in dangerous situations.
Well, man, we can get into a bigger discussion about that. But there are a lot of actors actually who I've worked with, also that put themselves in these situations or want to put themselves in these situations. It's really more of a not from them as much as it's production. Like, hey, if you
It's
get hurt in
insurance. It's
this,
insurance.
yeah,
Yeah, we did like Mission Impossible. What's it? Dead Reckoning Part 2,
mm,
or what is it? Dead. What was the title? They changed it.
Final
Final
reckoning.
Reckoning. Final Reckoning. And about how they had to change insurance companies in the middle of it because the insurance
oh
wouldn't
wow,
wouldn't insure Tom Cruise's stunts because they were like,
right.
you die, and that's how many. We can't afford that.
Right, right, exactly. But I mean, I know a lot of actors nowadays that really want to get into it. They really like the stunt part of it, and that's when they really start to respect the stunt department and what we do in movies. A lot of people don't know how intense it can be, and when we say that we risk our lives, sometimes it's very true. Um, it's something to take very seriously, and I'm happy that the Oscars are starting to finally recognize that.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
and but I do give kudos to the actors and stuff too, because they train their butts off when they're coming into a role, and if it's something specific like rappelling or you know um, fight sequences or horseback riding or whatever it is, they come in, and for my experiences, I've worked with a lot of actors who are really gung ho about doing it, training it, and wanting it to look authentic on camera.
I don't know if you've worked with Keanu Reeves, but I hear he is pretty much John Wick.
Yeah, I have not worked with him, but I have seen, and I know a lot of my friends have worked with him, and he's pretty badass and super, super humble, super nice to the guys, and really respects them, listens to them, and really good. In fact, I didn't even know. One time I went to 8711 to train, and I was leaving, and somebody was coming in with a motorcycle helmet on, and he was just taking it off as I was passing him, and it was Keanu Reeves.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, that was him. But he was going in to train for the movie, so I know he really goes in day out, hours and hours, a day to train jujitsu and weaponry and all the different things that he needs to do in WIC. So
Nice. Here, jumping ahead, we got so there's like the next one is somewhat similar. There's a like they're belaying into the side of a mountain. This is I don't know, the typical like the cliff entrance in the side of the mountain.
oh yes.
Uh and it's again a belaying, but it seems like there's definitely some practical built sets there.
Hmm.
Is it sort of a similar thing?
I know that they were on location in various countries. Like they were in Malta, they were in Thailand, the UK,
Mm.
and they even had a couple scenes in New York. So they're definitely on location in certain moments, right? And I'm pretty sure that they hired a professional rock climbing, or I'm not very versed in rock climbing and all that, but whatever team it was, they've hired professionals to
Mhm.
do that. And sometimes they might not even be SAG members, but they'll come in with tactical advisors or advisors for rock climbing, but then they'll have the people that are actually, maybe they got tafted or something like that to come in to the industry. But they'll definitely have professionals. Rock climbing and like stuff like skydiving, for example, you're not going to find a lot of stunt performers that have that as their, that they're professional at. Maybe they've tried it. Sure, I've been skydiving before too, but that doesn't mean I can skydive in a movie, right?
It's the taken approach, right? That
Right.
somebody with a certain set of skills that are
Exactly. Exactly. So I have a certain set of skills. Nobody can do what I do. So yeah, so they'll bring in the best of the best to come in and make those things look authentic.
awesome. And then then we're gonna sort of jump around and then come back and talk about the whole. Um there's an interesting moment with it's 121 in, and first there's kind of fighting a CGI creature,
Uh-huh.
which I think is an interesting thing. I've never experienced it, but I'm assuming it's a lot of imagination. I guess when you have a lot of CGI or like a CGI thing that you are fighting, is it all shadow boxing, or is there something that you are fighting against? Like, how does that work?
Well, I can speak to it on Avengers, right? Because
Hmm.
I was on that set. So when we were, when they were coming into the big dome in Wakanda and the aliens were trying to break through, right? I was in that sequence. And what happened was there were people in mocap suits to mimic the aliens, and some of them had like backpacks on that had like cardboard cutouts where the head would be,
Mm.
and there were takes where they would come in and fight us, right? So we would do our choreo with them, and then they'd yell cut, and then they'd take the mocap team out, and then we would have to fight the air. But we would always have to be reminded, look up, look up. These creatures are 3 times the size of you. Make sure you're not just fighting somebody in front of you. It's a creature that's 3 sizes up. So they'll remind us, and we'll have takes with the mocap team and then without. In this particular instance, I don't know exactly for sure, but um, I'm sure they'll use other things like puppetry and animatronics and stuff like that. And shout out, by the way, to Bashir Sylvain, who's in this movie, who's one of my friends,
Nice.
and sometimes also my acting coach. But I was talking to him about the movie as well, and where he's on the side of the mountain, that's actually him, Bashir.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of CGI. He said that was involved with that, but um, yeah, so it depends on how you can do it, especially if it's, in the air. You're not going to be able to have a person on, maybe you are belaying next to you, but, it's not going to mimic a flying dinosaur coming at you. So
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
times you're going to have to, you know, act like there's something flying at you. And they could use also tennis balls for your eye line, stuff like that. So you'll see a tennis ball, but you're supposed to, pretend that it's a dinosaur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and speaking of like, so you mentioned your friend was like one of the people on the side of the cliff. There's this one moment, it's like 121 in, where one of the characters gets like pulled off and out into the open air and then gets
Hmm.
caught by the rope.
Right. Yes.
I'm assuming you can't fake all of that. That at some level you're gonna have one of your specialists, rope climbers, who just like gets I don't know, pushed off of a thing and it goes down and catches.
It
Or
depends. It depends on how safely they can do something like that practically. And then they'll probably do it in cuts and in moments. So maybe they do have the professional do it on the side of an actual cliff, let's say in Malta, right? But then they'll to get the actor's face, maybe they'll do it on green screen in studio and cheat how far that fall was. Or they'll rebuild it somewhere and then they'll also have a stunt performer do it as well on green screen. But so they'll use moments, they'll use pieces and do it different ways and then see what looks best or have a plan to blend all of that together.
interesting. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, making
Yeah,
making
I
making the
mean,
cookie.
when you have a movie of this scale, especially that it's the seventh movie, in the franchise, you want things to look great, right? It's not a B movie we're talking about. So obviously their budget is
Yeah.
going to be really big. I believe it's what 250 million for that movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but if
Don't know for
Robert, if
sure,
Robert
but
Downey Jr. comes in, that's like a third of the budget. I mean,
right, right. So you got that too. But so they're gonna spend money on the stunts and they're gonna be able to, it's like, okay, let's go to location, figure this out, let's see what we can do practically. And then okay, then we'll get pieces in the studio and we'll build this over here for this. So, money talks at a certain
yeah,
point,
yeah,
I think also a lot of it is like you said, this is the seventh movie. Like you got to do something different, and it's like, have we had a scene where a pterodactyl has dragged a guy off the side of a cliff, dangling, from belaying, like so, like they're just up in the ante, and so that obviously adds to the budget and just sort of like something new and different. And it's like
right.
they have to up to ante, so like stunts like that really do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't seen that before in any of the Jurassics.
speaking of like big imagery kind of like step ups, so like a minute and 53 seconds in is there's like it's a quick shots, but the person swimming, and then you've got the T-Rex, I think it's a T-Rex, underwater, biting at the guy, and
Yes.
you've got the water moving, you've got
Hmm.
I mean, in my mind, just the things that go into it before you even have a stunt person is like, if you've got the CGI thing, sort of creating the physics of the moment, because you don't have an actual T-Rex, because we don't live in Jurassic Park reality.
Right.
Like, is that all just tons of preparation so that the moment is really, okay, this person's swimming away at this exact angle at this thing, sort of like sex scenes that are, most sex scenes are just so highly structured for the camera that it's all in the prep and then you do it.
Right.
Or is there just somebody with like a giant paddle just hitting the water in the back? And
Ah,
then, like,
maybe on some movie that we don't know about yet. Yeah, that may be the case. But on Jurassic World Rebirth, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of prep put into that moment. I mean, there's probably machines in the water to create, the bubbles and the movement that you see to, that the dinosaur is quote unquote creating. And then obviously you have to make sure that the swimmer is swimming in a specific way or in a specific direction, but that's when the VFX team is there, hands on, right next to the director, telling them, "I was like, okay, well, this is where I can put the dinosaur." And a lot of times they can cheat where they put the dinosaur to make it look like they're about to, bite the swimmer. And then it was probably done in a pool where they can control the lighting and all that. But I'm assuming that they had some machines in the water to create the effect of it, the disturbance in the water and the like.
And then, okay, so then the other big like moments, at least in my mind, are it's like, approximately 220 in or 215. It's the moment where they're on this boat and then they've got the dinosaurs kind of circling and attacking.
Right.
I know if I'm remembering correctly, in like Forrest Gump, when they're fighting the storm, they had like
Mm-hmm.
a big tank and they had the ship in this tank. But
Yep.
in this case, like it's open water, but they still have the boat, flipping, and they're doing all
Right.
these stunts essentially to stay on a boat, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that all has to be a controlled environment too, right? Now you're bringing in CGI, you're bringing in green screen for sure, to make it look like you're in open water. But you're probably not. You're probably again in a tank or in some kind of ginormous pool where you're able to control the environment. You control the movement of the boats to make sure it's safe for whoever's hanging
Hmm.
off the railings and stuff like that. So they're purposely moving the boat where they need it to be. Um, if they want to see the actor's face, maybe the actors are on a wire somewhere. If it's not something, crazy, or it's a wide shot with the doubles on it, and maybe they're still on a wire. But I'm assuming that they're in some kind of big pool where they can control everything to make it safe. I highly doubt that they're in open water
Water.
unless it's just a scene where they're, the B-roll shot of them, you know, um, just sailing before the boat starts rocking. That probably is on location. So again, they're using pieces of that. They're using when they're on location in open water before the boat starts rocking, the dinosaurs appear, and then they're going to use stuff that's in the controlled environment, and then they're going to use things on green screen that maybe they're not in water at all. Maybe the acting part is a boat that they built on a screen, and everybody's walking around it, crews walking
Hmm.
around it, like, hey, when's lunch? Whatever. But it's like in studio, so they're definitely using different locations, different shots, and controlling what they can control.
Yeah, I think Universal learned their lesson on Waterworld, never to shoot in open water out in the ocean. Uh,
Ooh, what
so,
happened there? I
Oh,
don't even know this
oh, you don't
story.
know. Oh, that's a
uh, uh,
that's a historical.
I love
yeah,
that
like
movie too.
Waterworld, yeah, like they shot out in open water, and it was
Oof.
just like a
They
disaster.
they built
Storms.
like a $30 million set or something, and it got destroyed with a storm on the water.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, yeah, and then there's no control in the sun, so you're limited to like
Right.
maybe shooting a couple hours a day, and if that. And so yeah, I think the key thing is like controlling the environment so you can maximize your shooting time.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so like that's 100%. I mean, some of those shots of that boat are probably not even like a full size boat. It's probably cut
No.
in half with a gimbal. You know,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Evan, you should definitely watch some Blu-ray special features. You'll learn a lot there. But yeah, it's so cool how they do this, and that's why like a movie like this costs $250 million because it's just crazy,
Yeah.
and there's a lot going in on it for sure.
It's crazy what you can build, and like when you think you've seen it all, and you go onto a set and you're like, what is that? And they're like, oh, this is when this happens and this and blah blah blah. And when you see, especially when cars have to flip and stuff like that in accidents, there's definitely a practical aspect of it when you have a stunt driver doing things. But if you have to have actors in there and see their face on, the more they push the envelope in these movies, the more they're gonna have to build and think about and be creative with. And it's really incredible to see, and I love that aspect of it, to be honest.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that the Oscars are finally going to recognize the stunt work
Yeah.
with an award. Like I
Hmm.
think that's just been long overdue. Like it's
I
just
mean,
Oh,
crazy that
and motion capture. The fact that motion capture also isn't its
I mean
own
that falls
standalone
under
award.
hmm
that falls under the VFX work, in my opinion. Like all the
yeah,
avatars, motion capture, so that's VFX. But just like going 100 years ago, Buster Keaton was doing stunts with no computers and just like the kind of work he was doing. Like
yeah.
it's just
Like on
baffling that
trains. Yeah.
yeah, on
Hmm.
trains and just like other things that were like, wow, how'd they do that? Like how they do these cool stunts without the
Yeah,
technology that we have today. So it's like it's just crazy that there wasn't an award for that
yeah.
for so
Even
long.
back then, for more so than today, we can make things a lot safer with the technology we have.
Hmm.
But still, there's practical aspects of it that are pretty intense. And there'll be times when the coordinator will ask the performer, like, hey, how comfortable are you with this? Can you do this without this equipment, you know?
There's a great behind the scenes from The Boys where the guy who's playing Homelander is like really high up in and he's supposed to fly down, but they're like holding him there for before a take, and he's just swearing because he's just so scared of the height. And he's like, I can do this, but just like, and he's just swearing because he's just like so scared of that being that high up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, a lot of people forget that as stunt performers are human. You know, we have fears as well. And there'll be times where we'll be on a run of a movie. It's like, okay, you need to do this, this, and that. I was like, okay, cool, that's good. I'm comfortable with all that. And it's like, and then you have to do this. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Hold on. You know, so that brings me to a story. I was on a show a pilot that never got released, never saw the light of day. I probably went to the hospital a couple of times on that show. Yeah, but there was at one point they said to me, you know, hey, how comfortable are you with a 15-foot or a 25-foot high dive? And I'm like, I think I can figure out the 15, but I've never done a high dive before, so I don't know about the 25-foot. They're like, oh, you'll be fine, and they walked away. And I'm like, what? And then luckily one of the people on the stunt team, you know, said, well, I have a dive coach if you want his number. I was like, if I want his number, please give me his number yesterday. So, you know, and I walked into the pool where I was practicing at the platforms, and I saw the 10-meter, which was 33 feet, by the way. And every time they kept coming back to me and asking me, it went from 25 to 30 and then 33. And I was like, wait a second, I thought it was 25 feet. They're like, what's the difference? I was like, 10 feet is up to
I would hope, like, if the height increases, the pay increases too.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a very good adjustment on that one. But for sure, I walked in and I looked at the 33-foot, you know, 10-meter platform. I was like, there's no way. But I did it. And that's one of my most proud stunts. You know, a lot of people think we're fearless, but we take calculated risks. We don't just jump in and do something crazy. You know, safety first is always our motto in stunts. So we have to make sure these things are built safely. We have to make sure we're comfortable doing them. We have to rely and trust our coordinators. We have each other's lives in our hands on set, you know, so it's very important for everybody to be working together and being on the same page. You know, you have you know, these days or these things now where everything can be made safer, but a lot of the times we want to make things look good too. You know, that's what we signed on for. We signed on for the athletic, physical part of this industry, and we love our jobs. And like people call us crazy, but you know, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love what we do.
Ever since Fall Guy came out, do you get people being like, oh, I know what you do? Because they just assume like Ryan Gosling's character is everything. So, oh yeah, you like this thing doesn't drop and like.
Yeah, it's crazy because you get people on set sometimes that come up to you when you don't have such a, you know, stunt heavy day. You're there, you know, doing smaller things, and everybody loves to come up to you and say, oh, I want to do stunts. How do I get in stunts? You know, let's talk about how I can get in this industry too. It's like, okay, cool. We'll have a conversation, but you know, when those days come where we do our really big stunts and, you know, we're maybe limping home sometimes, those people aren't around on those days. It's interesting.
When you were talking about like the working on an Infinity War and the mocap suits and fighting them, like who's leading that sort of direction? Is it the second unit director? Is it the directors of the movie? Are they there overseeing? Or because like a big movie like that, you know, the first unit directors can't be there the whole time,
right?
So I'm curious, like how involved is it? Second unit combo with the VFX team?
Yeah, definitely. You know, all hands are on deck at that moment. I definitely have to have VFX there. You're definitely working with a second unit director, which is most likely the stunt coordinator. And on big movies like this, like Jurassic World, Rebirth, and Avengers and Black Panther, you know, now you have multiple people in those roles. You have more than one stunt coordinator, obviously. You have more than one fight coordinator. And all these people have these roles, and you're dealing with hundreds of stunt people on set and actors. Everybody has to play a role. And stunt, that's the stunt department where, you know, the mocap, especially the fighting and stuff like that. But again, you have the VFX team there to show you, okay, well, this is how big the creature is, and this is the concept. And, you know, they'll show you on your computer, and then you have to match that. So everybody's working together now at this point, and everybody has to be on the same page to make everything come together.
I'm going to pivot us a little bit into just talking about the trailer as a whole, if you're cool with that.
Do it.
One thing that I thought was interesting, I'm going to jump on sound design that popped out to me, because I always like the movies that they make these days, other than these kind of franchise movies, you rarely get a theme song that you like associate with. And I feel like Jurassic Park from the get-go
Oh, nailed it.
had its, like you hear that and you're like, oh, something awesome's coming. And I was listening to it in this one, and it's really interesting because the score is like a xylophone, maybe. It's like very
Mm.
simple at the beginning, and at the beginning of the film you partially get it, and then at the very end you get sort of the theme. But again, it's like this xylophone, almost like raw kind of feel, which I thought was
very subtle. It's really
which is
cool.
like which is interesting because I feel like for action movies always win the Oscar for sound engineering and things related to that because it's so complicated, all the things they have to build on top of it, that I
Yeah.
thought it was really interesting, like simplicity they went with this trailer.
Yeah. Sound is very important, especially with stunts, because we're obviously not really hitting each other, right? And we're
Wait,
not.
what? Next thing you know, you're going to tell me
Spoiler
dinosaurs don't
alert!
exist. Oh my God. There's like,
I'm trying to let you down
I have a
easy,
shot right
Evan.
here, and there's a dinosaur coming out of the water, and there's somebody hanging on, and they're in the water. And yes, I know it was filmed in a studio, so you had a controlled environment so the dinosaur could come out at the right time. And it's an animal, and they say with working with animals and minors, so like I'm sure the dinosaur didn't go the right time, but like, okay, go
Right.
on.
You see how you can become a little unenthused sometimes, going, the more you know, right? You want that person behind the curtain sometimes. I'm trying to let you down easy here, Evan, So, but sound is definitely key. It keeps the suspense in a scene. Something's coming because the sound is building. When we throw strikes at each other, the sound is important to make you feel like I actually put my fist through somebody's face, or punch them or kick them in the stomach. It's important to make sure that these things sync up and are the right sound.
Mhm.
You don't want to hear a kazoo going off when I'm punching somebody in the face. It's like, what is that? So it keeps you in the moment. It keeps you in the scene, and it just adds to the spectacular experience that you're supposed to be having in these moments.
I'm curious if they used sort of the xylophone, the muted kind of score in this trailer because they know everybody wants to hear the score, that like not showing it at some level or like very subtly doing it. People are like, I want to know more. I want it.
Exactly. I think that adds to the trailer aspect of it too. What makes a good trailer? I don't want to jump ahead too fast, but
no, jump to whatever. And well, I think, okay, so I'm going to throw this. I have this line that like the one thing that sort of struck me about this trailer is, I don't want to say like the premise is silly. It's like Jurassic Park's premise is a little bit absurd, but this moment, this VO popped out at like it's 129 in, and the line is like, these dinosaurs were too dangerous for the original park. And
right.
UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, did a funny sketch. I think it's called like Jurassic Park Scientists Only Make Evil Dinosaurs. But it's like the premise of Jurassic Park, they could have had all vegetarian dinosaurs that weren't vicious, and people would have come to the park because it's dinosaurs. Like they'd want to see it.
Right.
But instead they're like, we're going to have a T-Rex, we're going to have velociraptors, we're going to have like all of these deadly things. And so like the line in this movie where they're just like, oh no, this is where they kept the really dangerous ones. It's like, or why not make any of those in the first place? Like that would have, then you'd have an amazing park. You would have made your billions of dollars.
Then they would only have 2 Jurassic Parks.
I think that would, I mean, when I go to a zoo, I'm not excited to see hippos or maybe
hippos are very vicious animals.
Those are nice.
Hippos are very vicious
nice,
animals.
actually.
They're extremely dangerous. Did you not see the movie Congo?
Come on,
Andrew. You gotta choose a different animal.
Most people are into. Well, I'm just going off.
Penguins are pretty cool. Penguins are pretty cool. I mean, they're not vegetarian.
But I think people want to see bears, lions, tigers, wolves, cheetahs, like
polar bears. I saw a polar bear, which is pretty cool. But giraffes eat plants, and they are awesome.
No, they're cool. They're cool. But I think what people I think people are more
gazelles.
excited about like those
You're right.
ferocious.
You're sticking to the kiddie park if you want to just eat plant. You want to see plant eating dinosaurs.
Okay, but plant eating dinosaurs. You got brontosauruses. You've got triceratops. I mean, you've got some pretty cool dinosaurs. You just don't have the like rip people in half dinosaurs.
That's what people want to see.
That's what people want to see.
Do they? If I'm
Yes.
going to give you the option of
I think it's the same thing with lions. Like, why do people want to see lions? I are you disappointed if you go to a zoo and you're like, oh, where are the elephants? I want the elephants. I've always disappointed, and my kids are like, especially my boy. When we go to a zoo, and we went to a zoo a week ago, and there was supposed to be a cheetah. Didn't see the cheetah. He was disappointed. He wasn't disappointed that he couldn't see the little mongoose thing. So, but maybe that's
It's always the fear factor, right? You want that fear factor.
the
Wanna
cool
be
animals.
close
They're the
to
cool
the
all
animals.
right,
Sorry.
all right. I guess I'm wrong. You guys
I mean,
would
come
not go
on,
to
this
see
is not-
dinosaurs if they were vegetarian. I get it. But I think like to me that's how they keep upping the ante, and I feel like not that it's a hard sell for me, but like first of all, I think one of the opening lines of this trailer is like Scarlett Johansson's character being, we've got this mission, and then it's like, and I promise I can protect you, or mostly, and it's like,
Yep.
no, you can't. Like we all know you can't. Like that's just such an absurd line, and then it's like
Right.
these are the really dangerous dinosaurs, and like if they make another one, it's going to be like what? Well, we were wrong. These are the really, really dangerous dinosaurs. Like it's like a very basic premise, which as a fan of like Michael Crichton's original books, I thought there were like, I don't know, levels to the books that had a little bit more, I don't know, like philosophy in sort of the why that I miss in some of these sequels that I feel like, the dialogue from this trailer, it's like group going in, they've got to, of course, get these dinosaur eggs or whatever, DNA, which is kind of the idea of the original movie where the guy was stealing the DNA for a different company. It's the generic line of like, it'll create medical, like, these amazing medical resources that they don't talk about. I don't know.
It's simple. I mean,
Yes.
this is like targeted toward a simple audience who just wants to see like the action of it, which I'm not mad at as a stunt performer, but but I get it. There could be more depth in movies like this, but I think that's a different audience.
Yeah. Well, it's just like when it comes to this trailer, it's the setup with the premise, and then it's
Right.
just showing the action or pieces of it. And I feel like I think they did a good job because they have that sort of, it's almost like two main scenes with sort of action clips bookended in there. You've got the first one of them going for the pterodactyl's eggs and that like the cliff moment, and then there's like different action moments, and then there's them on the boat getting attacked moment,
Right.
which I at least we'll see what you guys think, but like I was grateful for that in the trailer because you didn't get to see all the other things that are going on. Like it wasn't
Absolutely.
an action movie that showed all of the great action moments.
Yeah. I think that's the point, right? You don't want to see the movie when you're watching the trailer. You don't want to put all of your, you know, Easter eggs in that. It's supposed to be a teaser, supposed to entice you to see the movie. So we'll give you a taste, but the movie's 2 hours long. And you're only giving me two action sequences. So um, I think that's the best part of a trailer is teasing you a little bit, educating you on what the broad spectrum or the broad strokes of what the storyline is, and then trying to draw you in to want more.
Yeah, no, it definitely whets the appetite. But this movie, I mean, I think like it's a well constructed trailer. It does the setup nice. It introduces the characters perfectly, and it has that flow of, oh, here's the danger, here's the turning point, we're gonna get in trouble. Montage of these exciting moments, dinosaurs attacking us, ending with that big moment, of the attack on the boat at the end of the trailer. So I think, and with the music editing and the sound effects in there, I think it does like it's a nice presentation of the movie. But it just, it looks just like a Jurassic Park sequel, right? It's a sequel movie. You gotta naive group of people who have this wild idea to go to an island where they shouldn't be going and where they expect nothing to go wrong, but of course it does. And like, if you like want a definition of a movie formula, this is it. And Universal knows what it has, and it's milk in it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. All these movies make a lot of money, and whether or not they're good or bad, they're going to keep doing it. And
the formula is working.
The formula works. It's simple. It's a B movie. It's a B movie wrapped in a big, shiny box. It's very simple, and it's an expensive B movie. But, people dig it. People love dinosaurs. I think dinosaurs are timeless, and if people running and screaming from dinosaurs people want to see that, they'll keep doing it. I will say, like what stood out, like, sequel over sequel, like the dinosaur VFX just keep getting better, in my opinion. It seems like they use less, at least in here, it seems like there's less practical dinosaurs, but, they're not showing all of it. But like the shots of like the T-Rex chomping in the water look really, really good. Anytime when you're like incorporating VFX and like water, the element of water, like that's just like super hard to make it look good.
Yeah.
And I think they do a good job there. What kind of also like stood out is, and they kind of touch upon this, and like Evan, you poke fun at the line that these dinosaurs were too dangerous for the original park. It seems like they're, it's a new sequel, a new era. So they got to do something different. It looks like there's some weird looking dinosaurs in there that they kind of really tease. To me, they look like xenomorph, like alien dinosaurs.
That pink shot, is that what you're talking about? There's that one shot that was, I'm trying to remember exactly where it was, but it was like inside almost a tank. It was almost like minute and 50 or minute 52 in, and they're like in some kind of suits, and it's like a orangey red thing, and then
but there's another one where there's a step, like a big dinosaur takes a step into the scene, and you just see his leg, and it's like, wait a second, I've never seen that kind of dinosaur before. You haven't seen the bigger, the head of it, the body of it yet. It was just basically his leg, but it was like a weird, like that's the one I was thinking of. I was like, wow, that looks like it's a different kind of dinosaur.
Which is like a really nice taste too, because you just get a glance of it,
right.
Which you're like, ooh, okay, now I'm curious.
Because it's not just dinosaurs anymore, right? These are imaginary. Now they're doing hybrids. They're blending different species together, right? That's the kind of trend they were going on from the last couple of them. So now it's they've upped their game from regular dinosaurs, the regular plant eating ones that Evan likes to see, to these now mixed species dinosaurs that everybody's so curious about, right? Like, oh, what can they do? I forget which Jurassic Park it was with Chris Pratt, where it escaped and it was so intelligent that it made them think it was still in the cage, but it escaped. And it was a blend of, raptor, T-Rex, all these different, species. So it's like, what can they do? What do we have to be aware of? And how do we bring it down or capture it or get away from it? So I think that aspect is what also entices people about these Jurassic World movies.
Yeah, and I think like Evan, going to your point to make it, there's sort of like parallels to that. Like we had 3 Jurassic Park movies, the original 3. It's like dinosaurs, people getting caught in these crazy situations, have to escape and survive. Now we're doing Jurassic World. How do we evolve that? And it's like, well, just like the characters in that world, they're like, how do we get, the Jurassic World has been around in that world, in the movie world. Jurassic Park world has been operating as a successful business for years, so forth. But they're like, how do we get our attendance up? I think they talk about, maybe it's like evened out. It's like, we got to evolve. We got to bring in a new product. They're making new dinosaurs. Let's create new dinosaurs to get more visitors year over year. So similarly to like the movies, they're like, how do we change this up? Let's make new dinosaurs or do some crazy new stunts to get people. And so there's some kind of parallels there if you think about it. And also what I thought was kind of, when you talked about that line that these dinosaurs were too dangerous for the park. They also said, like, I think a little bit later, they're like, these are the worst of the worst dinosaurs.
Yes.
One of the characters said.
Yes.
It reminded me of a line from Con Air, the movie.
Oh,
when they're
great
talking
movie.
when they're talking about all the inmates that are going to be on the plane. These guys are the worst of the worst. We have serial killers and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, okay. And it's like
And
sort of
Steve
shorthand.
Buscemi.
Yeah, right. Who eats people? Like it's like so like I feel like that's kind of like, oh, what are these dinosaurs gonna be? It's like, and it's almost like shorthand for like these really bad things are just gonna happen by some really nasty things. So that's, I guess, in a way to kind of entice more people.
I mean, I'm curious how big a crew they're going to bring, like that they're bringing to this island, because it's needed to be big enough that they can kill them off without like running out of people too quickly.
Well, I imagine it's gonna be big enough because you need unfortunately you need casualties. You need people that are gonna get eaten
Red
by
shirts.
yeah, exactly.
It's also like the other Jurassic Park, right? When they thought they were bringing like a killing team, and then killing team when the plane was taken off. Remember that one? I can't remember which one that was either. But they were like,
And then
"Oh yeah, we got the artillery and the guns to make sure everybody's safe," and then they all got eaten first.
yeah.
Related to that, I had some like kind of like fun questions for us, sort of like predictions of like of the main featured cast, like Scarlett Johansson, Rupert Friend, Jonathan Bailey, Mahershala. Like of those four, who gets killed by a dinosaur? What are your predictions, if any?
I think that financier guy, I can't remember if that's played by Jonathan Bailey or Rupert
The
Friend.
suit guy?
But like the suit guy, he's definitely got to get killed. Like, and maybe hopefully in the middle of like, yeah, we survived, everybody, we did it, and then like oh my gosh, what's that movie with the intelligent sharks? Is it Deep Blue or something? Deep
Oh
Blue Sea.
yeah, Deep
Is
Blue.
that with
I think Deep Blue Sea. LL
oh my
Cool
god.
J.
Was it Ella Cool J? No, yeah, but no, but
Ella?
Yeah.
somebody, in that movie, there's somebody has like in
Samuel
their
Jackson.
yes, Samuel
Yeah,
Jackson
he's
dies.
like
He's got this like in the middle of this big
during his yelling
yeah,
speech. They
and
like,
then this
yep,
shark just comes and eats him. Like,
yep.
I feel like
That's great.
that might happen to the financier. I feel like
Yeah,
Mahershala Ali's gotta make it, and so does Scarlett
yeah,
Johansson, because
Scarlett for sure.
they're like the survivors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Mahershala maybe he's potential because like he's like the cool badass guy, but then maybe he just like dies in a heroic moment. There's a potential.
Mm.
Yeah, there's got to be a surprise death somewhere,
Yeah.
right? I don't know who that is, but
Yeah.
I feel like Mahershala, and maybe Mahershala died. I don't know.
I think it would be great if they killed off Scarlett Johansson, because that would be a surprise.
Ooh, that would be a huge surprise. And at the end too, when you think everybody's safe, that would be clutch. That would be
I'd take it halfway through the movie, because then
epic.
you're like, where is this movie going?
They do like
Wow.
a psycho thing.
Well, like
Or like,
Lost used to do that, right? Is you're like, oh, this character's great, and they're like, oh, you just killed them off.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
mhm.
Like a
Yeah.
Game of Thrones red wedding type of situation.
Honestly, here's another question I have. Like, it's like, why? Okay, so it's obviously they're going onto the island to go get some DNA. It's just them, but like, why are there kids with them? Again, there's always kids that get caught up. There's why? Like,
Hey,
that's,
when you have when you have kids, they sometimes got to travel with you. Doesn't matter how dangerous it is.
like,
if you
I'm
got to
just
go to
trying
an
to think,
island
like,
with people with dinosaurs that eat people,
are they the interns
They
working with
couldn't
them?
find
Are
a
they like,
babysitter.
okay, what if they wanted to
You
see?
know
What
how
if they
hard
wanted
that
to
is?
see the cheetah? Angel, they wanted to see the cheetah. They had their games, and like Twitch and Nintendo Switch 85 isn't doing it for them. They need to see a real dinosaur that could eat them, and that's
Yeah.
what gives them the dopamine that allows them to survive.
And if you need a babysitter and they ask you like, oh, well, where are you going? They're like, oh, this, like dinosaur eating island. It's like, well, I don't want to be stuck with these kids if you die. So, it's going to be hard to find a babysitter for these kids. So you got to take them with you.
And I bet they're the financier's kids, because that would follow in line with the original Jurassic Park, where it's like his nieces and nephews.
he doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
He doesn't have kids. I don't think he doesn't look like he has kids. He's just
Oh my
like,
god, no way. Are you kidding me? He's got like a mistress on the side who had a surrogate because she didn't want to give birth to kids herself, because that would mess up her, her figure. And then they've got this kid. Also no, a tangent, because it's the Jurassic World version, the Jurassic Park universe. They do have clones, right? Because there is that clone that was created that maybe that's I didn't see which Scarlett Johansson's name is, but there's that like girl who was a clone.
Yep.
So maybe these are some more clones.
You never know. Jurassic World, baby.
well, maybe if someone's gonna die, let's see one of the kids getting eaten on camera.
Oh.
Come on.
Ooh, that's not
I don't know.
not Jurassic
You
Park.
kids
That's
are-
not Jurassic
you can't do
Park
kids,
material.
You can't do dogs. No.
Yeah.
Well, then what's an alternate idea for a sequel? Because I mean, like they're just redoing this. Like, what's your idea for an alternate sequel?
somebody gets left behind. Somebody gets left behind. They forget that this person, or they thought they were dead, and then they get a message that this person's still on the island, so they got to do a rescue mission. Another rescue mission.
Okay.
They have that
So
kid.
I'm gonna yes and that. So somebody gets left behind and they learn how to train and fly on pterodactyls. And then because of the sun and the unique environment here, their skin turns blue and they've get a bit taller and they have offspring. And they have a way of connecting with these animals and the universe. And then the planet changes and it actually turns into this kind of like over time, kind of like if you ever read Superman Red Sun, that graphic novel. But like over time, the Earth evolves and changes and actually turns into this other planet. And then this faraway planet that is now like New Earth that never knew that this other planet comes there to get this thing that they've just decided to name unobtainium. And they've got to fight back against these evil New Earthers to protect their planet.
I feel like you've thought about this for a while. I mean,
and then we call the movie Avatar.
I like that twist that you put in there.
My pitch would be, and it's not full on pitch,
that,
but
Angel?
I'd see like a different perspective. Let's see the perspective from the dinosaurs. Like,
okay,
it's
I like where
it's
this
from
is
their
going.
perspective, and it's
like they're coming out of an egg.
Anything, we see it from their perspective, but like they're still humans. They're still humans on the island visiting, and they're like, "What's this? What's this going on?" And like, maybe they talk in subtitles. I don't know, but maybe they
okay. Movie. I like this.
or where the filmmakers do something completely different and off kilter. Maybe something like if like Phil Lord and Chris Miller from like 21 Jump Street did something weird and irreverent version of that. I don't know. That'd be
like two Velociraptor best friends are like, oh man, this is crazy. What's going on? Yeah. These people just keep trying to kill us. I'm just hungry.
Maybe they just like challenge each other, like, oh, how many people can you eat before I can eat? It's like, and like it's that, and it's like,
or a dinosaur family story, a wholesome one, how they survive in the wilderness of other dinosaurs.
Yeah,
stick together as a family.
That's what I would want to see. That would be,
or like or you could
make it.
No, you could have that dinosaur family that's rebuilding after the island got melted down from the volcano or whatever. Right. And they survived and they're like, oh, it's like Swiss Family Robinson, but dinosaurs.
Yeah, that could be good too.
I feel like that could be like also an animated TV series somehow.
It could be called Jurassic World: Life Finds a Way.
Oh,
use that.
That is a great line too. Okay, wait, we've been going for a long time. So let's jump to our ratings. So, Jénel, to give you a backstory on this, our rating system is see it in theaters, you'll stream it, if nothing else on, which is my like, if I'm working out on like a stationary bike and I run out of movies and it pops up as like a suggested, would I put it on? Or hard pass, I'd never watch this because it's just not my genre or whatever.
Gotcha.
Where do you fall? Angel, you want to go first?
No, let Jénel go.
Oh, Jénel, okay.
Definitely going to the movies.
Okay.
Definitely going to the movies on this one.
Why?
Sure.
Why?
I've been an invested audience member of the Jurassic universe since the first one.
Ooh, have you seen all of them in theater?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I've always loved the movie. I like the premise. I like the dinosaur aspect of it. I like the action. I like the suspense of it. Always been a fan. So definitely going to the movies. And then obviously I have, my people's in the movie. So
gotta support
the theaters.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Support theaters.
All right, am I up or
Evan,
you up, Angel? Me?
You go.
All right.
You go, Evan.
I am, man. I mean, I'm definitely at least streaming it. The thing I run into is like, can I get the time to go see it in theaters? I would say before this podcast discussion, I was probably a stream it, but afterwards, I feel like this would be a fun discussion to have after of what we all thought of the movie, and I'd have to see it in theaters to do that at the right time. So maybe I'll try and get out to theaters. I'm going to try and I'll stream it for sure, but if I can, I will get out to theaters. And maybe I'll try and like bring a backpack and I don't know, whatever I did when I was a little kid.
Bring him back. What does that mean?
Well, because I saw Jurassic. I don't know. I saw this. I saw Jurassic Park, the original, like on a school trip. So I was like, how do I, reenact that at some level? But I have no idea what
Okay, that's right. All right,
Angel.
I want to see the receipt. For me, I didn't see the last two in theaters. I saw the first Chris Pratt one, Jurassic World. Unfortunately, didn't make it to the other ones. Though the trailers were exciting, but I think just kind of like wasn't prioritizing them. But this one, new era, new crew. I'm there. I'll see it in theaters. Popcorn movie for sure. I'll drag my son to it. He loves dinosaurs, though he said he seems a little scared of it, but I'm gonna make him go.
I mean, there's a lot of scary looking monsters in this one.
He's seen all the other ones, so to me,
I think he'll be fine then.
Yeah, he'll be fine. And
He's seen people ripped apart and blood going everywhere, multiple times.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'll see it in theaters.
Do we want to leave the audience with a question for the comments, or do you want to pivot on it? I don't know if the one that we came up with is like matches this, or is there a more Jurassic Park focused one that might be interesting? What about like if you came up with your own new dinosaur, like what would that dinosaur be, and how would it be different than all these other ones?
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that one. Yep, definitely.
All right, so that's the question for the comment. If you create your own, what would it be, and how would it be different than all the other ones that we've seen?
There you go.
Jénel, I actually had a question for you.
Yeah.
Just regard, you have obviously awesome, diverse resume of movies and shows that you've worked on as a stunt performer. Do you have a stunt bucket list that you're like hoping to check off in terms of like a type of movie that you've never done, or a type of stunt that you've never done? And like, if so, what would it be and like why?
Honestly, I think I've checked off all the stunts that I've wanted to do, and then also ones I've done that I didn't want to do. I had actually 2 stunts that I said I would never do in my career, which was a car hit and a high fall, and I've done both of those. I've actually even driven a motorcycle on scene, which I said I would not do motorcycles, but I got my motorcycle license and did that too. So I think I've
Cool.
checked off all my stunts. My list now is actually who I want to meet on set, who I want to work with. Tom Hardy's on that list. Helen Mirren for sure. Denzel Washington would be awesome, even though I know I think he's on the verge of retirement.
He's on Broadway right now.
Broadway, and got to catch him soon. But yeah, those are the people. I mean, Tom Hardy for me is really cool. I feel like he goes, he floats under the wire, but he's amazing, and he's in movies that you didn't think he was in because his appearance has changed so much, and I love characters like that. So he's definitely has impressed me throughout all the movies that he's done, and Helen Mirren is just a legend, and then just the epitome of elegance. So would like to to do that, to meet them, to work with them would be great. But yeah, I actually now, I mean, another box I want to tick is obviously going back into and diving more deeper into the acting world. I've done lots of stunts and some stunt acting roles, and through stunts I've gotten roles, but acting is equally as passionate for me as stunts, and that's what you'll see coming up in Shadow Force opening May 9th. So
Dun, dun.
Cool.
definitely go see that. But yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome.
And just wrapping things up, as always, any movie that we have discussed in this podcast the trailer will be in the description of this podcast. So check those out if you are curious about any of the random references that we made. Also, as always, if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe. And thanks for listening. And thank you again, our special guest, Jénel Stephens-Thompson,
Yes. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.